Hello, Burt Ward. It's Buzz Adams speaking.
Hello, citizen.
We are so really thrilled to have you coming into town. You and Adam West coming into town for the El Paso Comic Con.
Well, I got to tell you, both of you have excellent taste.
So I read your book about 20 years ago. You had a book out about...
Oh, yeah, and you're still willing to talk to me?
Yeah. We found out a lot of very uncrusading, Cape Crusader-like behavior that was going on. But we won't dwell on it.
We're very interested in pleasing our fans.
Yeah, at least half of your fans, the female half anyway.
Yeah.
I think you've pleased all your fans through the years. We're talking with Burt Ward, who played Robin. Was that your first acting role? You look very, very young. You could not have been out of your teens by very much when you did that role.
Well, I was actually 60 at the time. No, I was playing 15 and a half, but I was 20, and when I got the part, but when I actually started, I was 21. So having done it for 3 years, I really was 21, 22, 23, and going on 24 when we completed production, but I was playing 15 and a half.
Yeah, you must have, part of your youthful, boyish looks must have been part of the reason you got the gig in the first place, I guess.
Well, actually, I'll tell you what happened. What happened was they interviewed, the producers at 20th Century Fox, interviewed more than 1,100 people. They did a national search, and I think it was like 8 or 9 months searching all across the country. And I came in, I guess, near the end of their search, and I met the executive producer, and which I didn't know that, first I met the casting director, and he says, "Oh, would you like to meet the executive producer?" And I figured, well, everybody gets to do that, right? Well, I didn't realize that not everybody does get to do that. So I met the executive producer. His name was William Dozier, and the first thing he said to me was, "Well, gee, you're kind of big to play this part." And I said, "Oh, I promise you, sir, I won't grow anymore." And he laughed, and then he said, "Well, I guess you've been playing parts between 15 and 17. And there was a pause, because obviously I hadn't, and I just kind of shook my head, nodding as though I had. And he said, "Well, we'll give you a shot at doing this." So I was one of the very few that had a screen test. And since I was a black belt in karate, which was very new at that time, I mean, back in 1965, my goodness. Anyway, I did some stuff in the screen test, broke a board and all that kind of stuff, and with my hand. And then they at one point they finally called me in to tell me that I had the part, and they said, "We've decided we want to go with you." And I said, "Well, that's fantastic." And they said, "Would you like to know why?" And I said, "Sure." And they said, "Because in our minds, if there really was a Robin, not a television show, not an acting job, but if there really was a Robin and a Batman, that you personally, Burt, would be exactly what we would envision Robin to be. Right. So we don't want you to, quote, act. We really just want you to be yourself and be enthusiastic, and that's all we want. Just be yourself and be enthusiastic." And I did that.
Were you naturally, Burt, that gosh darn optimistic and just kind of, what did you capture in Robin? Kind of an optimistic and naive. Was you in 1965?
Yeah, not so much naive, but more innocent. I mean, I grew up in the shadow of the movie industry. I hadn't been knocked around. So many actors get rejected so many times that by the time, if they ever do get successful, I mean, they're ready to bite people's heads off, you know what I mean? Because they've been so beaten up by the process. But I wasn't. And I was, honestly, a very straight kid. I mean, never smoked in my life, never drank anything in my life, never took drugs. I mean, I just, entirely boring, but not really. But seriously, I was just a very straight kid, and so I approached it sincerely.
Like I say, I've read your book. I think people would be, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but the amount of money they paid you when you first started out was was not much at all. I mean, I don't know what.
No, it was minimum scale.
Yeah, minimum
which
scale.
was at the time in 1965, or actually it's 1966 we started. That for a full week's work, and I mean you're talking about 7:30 in the morning till about 7:30 at night. It's about a 12-hour day, and believe me, if you put on that costume, which I mean that was like a torture suit, you know what I mean? To be in that for 12 hours a day, work for an entire week, end up going to the emergency hospital 5 days of the first 6 days in a row of the filming, all for $350 a week. I wasn't exactly overpaid.
To the emergency room, those tights must have been tight.
Oh, well, no, but I mean, it was a very dangerous show. I mean, I'll tell you, the first day on Batman, the very first shot, we were doing the famous scene coming out of the Bat Cave, and it was shot in Bronson Canyon. And they said, "Okay, Burt, get your costume." And this is like, I'm there at 6 in the morning, so it's by 7 they're ready to get started. So I'm in my Robin costume, and I go into this cave, and there's the Batmobile, kind of semi-darkness. So I get in the Batmobile, and I look over, and I saw what I thought was Adam West, but it wasn't Adam. And I said, "Wait a minute, you're not Adam West." He said, "No." I said, "Well, what are you doing here?" He said, "I'm a stuntman." I said, "Oh, well, what are you doing? Is this a stunt?" He said, "Oh, absolutely. It's very dangerous." And that's why they don't want Adam to take a chance of getting hurt. Sure. So they hired me, because I don't care if I get a few broken bones. I said, "Well, wait a minute. This is so dangerous. Don't I have a stuntman?" He said, "Oh, yeah, you do." I said, "Oh, well, where is he?" He said, "Oh, look down there. You see, he's over there having coffee with Adam West." I said, "Well, wait a minute. And I called over the assistant director. I said, I know this is my very first shot and the very first day of work, but I think there's a mistake here. This man tells me this is a very dangerous shot, and I'm sitting here instead of the stuntman." He says, "That's correct." I said, "Why?" He says, "Well, we got a problem." I said, "What's the problem?" He says, "The stuntman we hired for you doesn't look like you, so we can't use him." I said, "Well, wait a minute. Why would you hire somebody to be my stuntman if you couldn't use him, if he doesn't look like me?" "Well, we couldn't find anybody else. So anyway, we got to shoot this." So we come out of the Bat Cave at 55 miles an hour, go straight at the camera. The stuntman, an amazing stuntman, makes a sharp left turn, but unexpectedly, my door flies open. And I was, by centrifugal force, thrown towards going out the door, and I managed, just before I fell out, to reach back, and I actually hooked my little finger around the gear shift knob, and it kept me from falling out. The door hit the camera crew, I mean, knocked over the camera, knocked over a light, and in my case, even though I didn't fall out, it pulled my little finger out of joint. And by the time everybody rushed over and they stopped the Batmobile and everybody rushed over, my hand had already almost doubled in size. It was instantaneously. And they said, "Oh my gosh, Burt, we got to get you to the hospital." I said, I can't believe how painful this is. They said, "Don't worry, we'll get you to the hospital just as soon as we finish the shot."
Priority.
I said, "Well, what does that mean?" "Well, we've got to set up lights. It's going to take us 45 minutes. We got to do this. We got to do that." Now, this is at 7:15, 7:30 in the morning. I didn't get to the hospital until noon. And it was very painful. And this was the beginning of 5 of the first 6 days in a row for me going to the emergency hospital. I had never been in an emergency hospital in my life. I'd never been injured in my life. Knock on wood, I was lucky. But it was incredible. And every day I'd go back. It was either third-degree burns or an explosion where a 2x4 landed on my nose and broke my nose.
God.
And the doctor said, "Boy, are you accident-prone?"
What?
I said, "No, this thing is really dangerous."
I'm Robin.
Burt, why were they not concerned about you getting hurt, but they were concerned
they
about...
actually became concerned. They became concerned. So what they did was they took out a $3 million life insurance policy on them.
Which would pay out to them, not you.
Of course. And I'll tell you, by near the end of that series, I swear those last 3 shows, they were trying to collect on that policy.
So at what point did they start to become concerned about you? You say 5 out of the first 6 days of shooting. Was it after the 5th time that they finally were like, "Hey, by the way, we might want to check in on Burt Ward and make sure that we're not going to injure the guy"?
Well, let me just tell you, they were so concerned that they told me that he was a little irritating for them to have to keep sending me to the hospital.
It's more of a nuisance.
And I said, well, gee, thanks a lot, you know. And let me give you another example. This is the opening show with Frank Gorshin and Jill St. John, and I'm tied down to a table, supposedly in a subway. Batman, Adam West, is supposed to break through a wall with an explosive charge, and in order to make this look right, what they do is they build what's called a breakaway set, and it's actually balsa wood, but it's painted by these fantastic artists and everything to look just like a real cave. Well, there was a problem. The people who built the set wasn't aware that it was a breakaway, and they built a regular set, with 2x4s. So when they planted this charge and Batman was supposed to break through the subway wall, nothing happened. And of course, now there was no 2 or 3 weeks to build another set. Well, this had to be shot. So what did the special effects guys do in their infinite wisdom? They used 2 half sticks of dynamite and nearly blew the entire soundstage down. I couldn't hear properly for a week after this explosion.
Let me guess. Adam wasn't near the explosion when it happened.
No, he was off stage. Probably having another cup of coffee with my stuntman. Anyway, so I'm tied down to the table. My arms are at my sides, tied down. 2x4 comes down because it nearly blew the whole soundstage out, broke my nose. And I'll tell you something. I did have a little bit of forewarning, okay? And you know what my forewarning was?
I don't know.
When I'm tied there, and this is like 8 o'clock in the morning, you're tied to a table, and as these special effects guys with the explosives walk past you, you know it's a bad sign when you smell liquor on their breath. You know it.
At some point, we're talking to Burt Ward, who played Robin in the great 1960s Batman and Robin series. Did you think, they're hazing me? Like, I'm the youngest kid here. They're hazing me like you would in a fraternity or in the military or
like
something.
a rookie in the NFL or something.
Oh, I think I would have been a lot safer in a fraternity or in the military. This was really dangerous stuff. And but everybody was like, because it's so exciting, and we had 80 people on the crew, and we had some of the greatest actors ever. There was a lot of fun times too. It's just that when it came to the explosions and the fire and the smoke and one of the scenes, I'm in a car that's turned over in the side, and the Riddler, Frank Gorshin, he comes. I'm down underneath him in this burning car. The car is burning. And he comes out, and he jumps out of because the car's turned on the side. He comes out this opening of the door and jumps to the ground. And I climb up, and I'm supposed to jump to the ground. But before I could jump, the car actually blew up. And all I could remember was that ground was coming at me like at 100 miles an hour because it threw me to the ground. Okay?
Yeah.
It's really dangerous stuff. And but of course, when you watch it, it was spectacular. The stuff was so great, and it was so wonderful. The pows, the zaps, the music, the fight scenes. I love the fight scenes because I'm black belt in karate. But my God, all these other stuff. When it came to the explosives and stuff, that was something I really didn't enjoy doing.
We look back on Batman and Robin, which I grew up watching in reruns every afternoon after school.
Right.
And I just loved it. I couldn't get enough of it. I didn't care if I'd seen the episode before or not. I just loved watching it. But it seems after all the darker and darker versions of Batman we get, and it seems like they just get more dark as you go along.
Oh, I know.
But
and you know what Adam says? Let me tell you what Adam says. Adam says, of course, when you watch the movies, that's the Dark Knight. He says, but I'm the Bright Knight.
Looking back, everything about that show looks so wholesome and family friendly. But at the time, there was kind of a controversy that had to do with your groin.
Well, that's kind of a coarse word. Let's just say there was a problem fitting in the tights.
Well, tell it who was upset, or was it something you noticed
yourself? It was
yourself?
Apparently the Catholic Legion of Decency. And look, first of all, anybody knows that a man was not built for tights, right?
Yeah.
And there was some issue with that, and of course. Oh my God! The studio wants to keep everybody happy, so they had all these wardrobe people coming in trying to fit these contraptions on me and all this stuff, and they finally found this quack doctor that gave me these pills,
Jesus,
and,
what kind of pills?
Well, they shrink you up.
No.
Anti-Viagra?
No, it's the opposite, I think, of that.
Yeah,
That's
anti-Viagra.
Yeah, and whatever. But after a couple of days of taking those pills, I actually got scared. I thought, this could maybe ruin me for life. I could never have a child or anything. So I stopped taking it, and I just used my tape to cover.
There was some time spent, though, figuring out what to do with the Boy Wonders bulge.
Oh, well, absolutely. And here's the thing. We were doing where this really became a big issue was we were shooting this Londinium Larceny episode, and they had like these 6 very beautiful girls that were like the villain's assistants. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were aware of this whole situation, okay? And they were purposely taunting me and rubbing against me and all this kind of stuff during the rehearsals, which, really dirty tricks.
Trying to get the Boy Wonder secret identity out there, then.
Go ahead. I'm feeling.
Yeah, I don't know. All I can tell you was it was embarrassing. It was, what do you do? I mean, and plus, I was a kid, and I was so young in comparison to everybody else. I mean, the youngest person on the set besides me was Adam, and he was 37 when I was 21. You know what I mean? And what most people don't realize is that you think you get up there and you do all this stuff. It's not the way you think it is. What happens is, it's the famous line in show business is hurry up and wait. So, Burt, we got to get you into makeup. We got to get you into wardrobe. And then you do all of this. You put this god-awful contraption on, and then you sit for an hour while they light the set, and they can't get one shadow to go away.
Right.
And then you get up and you work for like 25 to 30 seconds, and then you wait another 45 minutes to work another 25 to 30 seconds.
Showbiz.
Yeah,
That's
lots
showbiz,
of glamour,
right? Hey, we're talking to Burt Ward. We're going to have this Comic Con, and we're going to have Burt Ward and Adam West at the same time, which is, what could be better than that? Well, having the Batmobile, which I believe is going to be there as well. So.
Oh, yeah. And you know something? We love to meet the people. And I got to tell you something. Most people don't realize what happens when people come up to meet us. You see, the typical people that come up are like families, like maybe mom, dad, and the 1 or 2 kids or something, that'll come up to say hi. And what happens is the parents who grew up watching Batman, when they actually meet Adam and I, it's amazing what happens. For a few moments, they become childlike again. And really, in everything they say and do, and their kids are not prepared for this. I mean, it's really entertaining because they'll come up and somebody that, the whole father figure and Mr. Macho and all of this, and their kids will hear him say, oh, gosh, I love Batman and Robin. I wanted to be Robin. My brother was Batman, and their kids are looking at them, and they've never heard their parents talk like that. And then the mother will say something like, oh, and I was in love with Robin, and it is so much fun. It is so much fun because you're seeing people with all the issues we have in life and all the problems and all the drudgery and all this other stuff. For that few minutes that they're there, it's like going back in time.
Burt Ward is going to be here along with Adam West. And I want to ask you, Burt, the Comic-Cons, every town has one. There's so many of them. But when Batman went off the air, was there still a demand for you to appear as Robin and for Adam to appear as Batman? Were there anything that you would compare to the conventions like they have today?
Well, let me just tell you, my very first appearance was actually by myself because Adam was in New York making filling Shea Stadium, okay? And I went by myself up to Tacoma, Washington, to it was called the B&I Circus store, and it was like just imagine an indoor mall that had wild animals in cages, Okay, I mean, you
Wow.
couldn't get near, nobody could get hurt. But here you are, you're shopping, and there's a real lion there, and there's a real gorilla, and all this kind of stuff. But anyway, I didn't have any idea how popular Batman was, because remember, I'm shooting this show, and between going to the emergency hospital and sitting on a set 12 to 14 hours a day, only working literally a couple of minutes of that entire day, you don't have a realistic picture of what goes on. I went there, and they handed out raffle tickets. I didn't know I was there on a Saturday and Sunday. I didn't realize that on the Wednesday before, people were sleeping out in tents, and you couldn't get within 3 blocks of the mall. And it was a whole thing, just going through the crowds. When they handed out the raffle tickets, they told me at the end they handed out over 310,000 raffle tickets. I mean, you just can't believe what it was like, and I couldn't believe it. But I will tell you, there was a kind of a funny moment. I had rented the University of Washington football team as kind of to keep me from getting trampled on. And we're walking down the inside of this mall, and there's these 2 elderly women coming the other direction, and apparently they'd never seen Batman, and they saw me in this costume, and one turned to the other and said, "Huh, damn hippie."
Hey, Burt, when you were playing Robin and Batman was a big hit, and it was a real hip thing to watch Batman. Did you have celebrity fans, from the music scene and movie stars? Would you, meet anybody that was you considered a big star that expressed to you that they were a big Batman and Robin fan?
Every one of the guests were.
Yeah.
In fact, there was such a demand for the very prominent actors to be on our show. And there wasn't enough, episodes. Even though we did 120 episodes, it's still one a week. And there was so much demand. Every celebrity, every star, particularly who had any children, were pounded by their children. You got to get on there, Mom. You got to get on there, Dad. You know what I mean? On that show. And I was like a kid in a candy store, because everyone was like a superstar. But what they did, because there was such demand to get on our show, that they created this scene that we would do where we would climb up the side of a building,
the
and
cameos.
a window would open.
I loved them.
Yeah, and
I loved
cameos of these great, famous people, just fantastic people.
A lot of them made no sense as far as chronology goes, because one time it was Werner Klemperer who played Colonel Klink. Well, he opens a window and he's talking to Batman and Robin. Number one, they should arrest him for being a Nazi. He probably should have been in front of a tribunal. Second of all, wait a minute, it's not the 40s anymore, it's the 60s. But it didn't matter because he was a star of, Hogan's Heroes.
Exactly.
Well, tell me.
Well, but you see, they were going for, and remember this, everything was tongue-in-cheek.
Right, everything was
for the kids, we played it very straight. So for children, this is like the ultimate in hero worship, climbing walls, fighting villains. And, nobody ever got really hurt. I mean, we'd take chairs and break it over somebody's head, and they'd fall down, and 2 seconds later they're up again. There was never any blood. There was never any real violence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just so much fun and so much bigger than life. And every kid wanted to be like Batman and Robin. And a lot of them actually liked Robin, in some cases, more than Batman, because the average child looked at the mirror and said, they're not 6'4". You know what I'm saying? But gee, Robin, who gets to ride with Batman, who gets to climb the walls with Batman, who helps Batman, they would relate to me. You know what I mean?
I think it's important to let younger listeners know, that the 60s Batman, they call it campy. And some people think, well, they didn't know that it was campy. No, you knew at the time that it was, tongue in cheek and with a wink and a nod and everything. It's not like you guys were trying to make some, like a dark version of the 1960s. You knew that it was supposed to be campy, and all your viewers knew it too.
Well, yes, but here's one of the reasons Batman was so successful, because we did something that had never been done before in television history, which was we put on the audience. In other words, if you watched a medical show, it's very serious and somebody has to have an operation, or you watch a police show, like Adam 12 or any of these shows, they're going after a criminal and all this kind of stuff. But with Batman, it was different. We played it very straight for the kids, but it was written very funny. And so when you take something that and the characters we played, we weren't laughing with this. In other words, it would have ruined it. We played it so straight, you know, and that's what made it really funny for adults, and particularly an audience that television had not been able to capture was this teenager college kids. Batman was such a hit that they would go to the dorms in you know, wherever the entertainment area where they had a television, like an hour ahead just to get a seat to be able to watch Batman at the college campuses.
Tell me a little bit, Burt, about the girls. You know who I'm talking about, the Cape Chasers.
They're beautiful. I mean, we had some of the most wonderful, beautiful actresses on Batman, and I mean, you know, it's just amazing. I mean, and you know, it was amazing seeing so many famous stars and beautiful, incredible women and stuff like that. I mean, Adam and I really had fun, other than wearing the costumes and getting hurt. You know, other than that, we had a great time.
I'm talking more, Burt, about the groupies. You had to have had groupies in the 1960s. Two good-looking young men had to have had women that pursued you all over the place.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I mean, and you've got to be nice to your fans.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Can't say no.
Yeah, you can't let them down. So, but and every time we would make an appearance, I mean, it was just like, you know, it was just almost crazy because people would get in lines, and there were times that it was a 4-hour wait just to meet us. You know, I mean, thank goodness now, you know, they've got things organized better, so, you know, we don't have that kind of a wait time. But it was crazy then. It really but we had so much fun, and everybody had the best time. When I go to these events, Adam is such a nice guy. He and I have been friends for 50 years. I mean, we get along great. And not every duo get along great, but Adam and I have always been incredibly good friends. In fact, even when we were shooting the show on weekends, we'd go out and play tennis, you know, and people would be waiting for the court, and they'd look and they'd recognize, you know, us, and they'd say, "Oh, my God, there's Batman and Robin playing tennis," you know? It was really it was a different world than it is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was the 60s. It was the Flower Kids. It was the free love. It was you know what I mean? It was a simpler, happier time than today's world. You know, and it was bigger than life. I mean, it was really, really a lot of fun. And Adam and I, you know, Adam has got an amazing sense of humor. Let me tell you something. And if any trouble I got into, I can definitely give him the credit for getting me into it. You know what I mean? I was just an innocent kid.
Was Adam a bad influence on you, Burt, or?
Well, I won't say a bad influence, but let me just say he's. You know, here I am, totally innocent. Honestly, okay, I never even had gone out on a date. Okay, and you meet Adam, and of course, you know, every other thing he says has a sexual connotation. You know what I mean? Oh my God, you know what I mean? And well, let me give you a quick example. This is on the show, shooting Batman. This is the last season we had Batgirl, Yvonne Craig, and the scene was that we had brought, for whatever reason, we brought Batgirl to see the Batcave. We had to kind of use a kind of a bat gas to knock her out so she wouldn't know where it was. And then, you know, she awoke inside the Batcave, whatever the dialogue we had, and then we were leaving. Okay, and so in the Batmobile, Adam is Batman behind the wheel, and I'm in the right seat, and then Batgirl is sitting in between us, and he, you know, gives her this kind of knockout gas, and so now she's asleep. And we have this dialogue, okay, just before we leave. And here's the dialogue. I say to her, I say to Adam, I said, you know, Batman, Batgirl is really very attractive, you know? She's very pretty. And he has a line, something like, well, you know, Robin, I can see that, you know, you appreciate this and that you're growing up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah, really wholesome.
And Adam is not the kind of guy that makes mistakes very often. He went through 13 takes of making a mistake where they had to say, oh, cut, we got to shoot this again. Okay, And I couldn't understand. I said, this is not like Adam to do this. I mean, why is he having a problem? And then I realized what he was doing. He was setting it up so that the director and the crew were under such pressure that when he finally got the take right, they would have to use whatever he said.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah, I
In
understand.
other words, there's no more takes coming. This is it. I mean, and the director was saying, if you mess this up again, I'm going to get fired. I got to move on to the next shot. So here we are. And then when I realized that something was coming, let me tell you something. Boy, did Adam give us a zinger. All right, so we're sitting there and roll camera, action. Gosh, Batman, that girl is really very pretty. And he says, I'm glad you noticed, Robin. It shows the oncoming thrust of manhood.
Now, how did you keep a straight face? How did Yvonne Craig, even though she's supposed to be knocked out, how did she keep from laughing at that?
Well, what happens is you have to learn not to move your face and cry, but the tears come out of the corners of your eyes.
All right, Burt Ward, along with his longtime friend, Adam West. We'll be at the El Paso Comic Con. That's April 15th through the 17th.
17th,
Yep.
16th and 17th. And we'll be signing autographs. We'll answer any questions. You can get your picture taken with us. We really have a great time. And Adam is incredibly funny and charming. Everybody has a great time if they just come out and meet us and bring their family, their kids, whatever.
This is a must for any comic book fan, any superhero movie fan. Both of these gentlemen are icons and legends. And thank you, Burt, for being on with us today.
All right, citizens, to the Batmobile.
Thank you. All right, Burt, that was fantastic. We loved that interview. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks for calling.
Yes. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. All right, bye-bye.